Bakoven.
I love Billy C.
Coming at you live from the Kfxl Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Strick and Bob. Hold up.
It is that time of the day, the best time of the day. Time for On the Block here on 93.7 The Ticket. Maybe I'm a little biased saying that, but I'll stand by it. Myself, Jake Bakoven, and Eric Strickland, the Husker Hall of Famer, longtime NBA vet. We're here to break down Husker basketball, Husker football, everything that's just kind of going on in the world of sports. We also have Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald set to join us here at 4:25. Of course, Shootout with Strick, our daily game show, will be at 4:45. So we'll get all that done. Also, a few Huskers, former Huskers, I should say, getting drafted today and yesterday into the USFL. So maybe we'll get to that before the end of the day as well. Kind of interested, I guess, with a few names out there that I've seen joining this league. It might get my interest a little bit. I've been one that always says the NFL isn't going to have any competition. These sites never work. These other leagues never work. But I think I'm getting a little bit more interested. Strick, how are you doing today? Coming off the late night last night watching Husker basketball again.
Yeah, it was pretty long. It was tough to rest, but I was able to get rest and woke up, and we're here. We're on the block, and let's have a wonderful day, because yesterday was not a good day. It wasn't an Ice Cube type of day.
No,
that day was not a good day.
It wasn't. It's and real quick, we'll get into this a little bit later, but real quick, just to kind of catch up on what we've been talking about on the Ticket Water Cooler. We're talking a lot about Nebraska basketball and just kind of where they are. I guess just something that pops to my mind is what do you kind of expect from Senior Day against Iowa coming up? It's their last home game. You wonder, is this a statement game? Is this where some fans decide to sit out and make their statements, their last opportunity to say, hey, I'm not going to be coming to these games if this is how it's going to look? Or do you think that more people will want to show up for, the Alonzo Verges, the Kobe Websters, the guys that are for sure leaving? And then, there's probably bound to be 3 or 4, if not more, other guys that'll be their last game at Pinnacle Bank Arena as well.
Yeah, I would sure hope not. I really would. I would hope that they would still stay to the course of who they are as fans, as people. I regardless of how things have gone, I still think as a whole they have tried. And I would hate for those who have definitely put in the time, put in the effort. It just didn't work out for them. Now they're passing on, and then hopefully those younger players got to see something that they don't ever want to see again. And that's the way I would hope that this would end, that those behind them would say, I'm going to put in more time in the off season. I'm going to get in the weight room and spend more time in this off season. I'm going to shoot more jumpers this off season. I'm going to raise my IQ because I saw some things that just I didn't like. And then you would hope that some of those young players, some of those players that were sitting or that redshirted, like a Denon Dawson and the likes of them, would then raise themselves up to a leadership role. So I would hope that there would be some benefit, because I think that out of adversity, out of trouble, I think that young men are born. I can say for myself that what I experienced, where I easily could have walked away, I easily could have gave up, and I wanted to because I didn't like what I saw. And I would say that it molded me into a better person, a better player, a better, more driven person, because where I didn't like what I saw, I put in the time that off season to make it happen. And it landed me in an opportunity to play and fulfill my dreams. And then when you get cut, I could have, if I would have remembered and dealt with the situation that I was going to deal with at the University of Nebraska, where I almost walked off the court, and it wasn't for Jeff Smith. I was pretty much done. I look at that situation and I'm reminded of when I was cut by the Mavericks in January. And then I go to Oklahoma City and I'm playing there for the CBA team. And I wasn't playing, but it gave me the resilience to have a conversation. I was able to deal with the situation a lot more differently than I probably would have. Instead of getting mad and getting upset and allowing my emotions to take over, I was able to have a conversation with the coach. That led to a transfer over to Quad Cities and still in a backup role. But it continued to keep my focus on the dream and on the desire of what I wanted to see fulfilled. And that was a return back to the NBA, and bless it did. So that's what I'm saying, is that I'm hoping that out of this adversity, it breathes life into those who are watching it, and they don't run, but they see it and they want to change it.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you almost have to have adversity to grow in life. I think, on and off the basketball court can certainly be different things, but I kind of feel the same way. I've had, went through some adversity and grew because of it. And you feel stronger. You can take on more of it. You're not thinking that what would happen if this happened. Oh, I can't even imagine if that happened. Well, now you feel like you kind of have the footing to be able to take it on. And none of these guys came to Nebraska thinking they're going to be 1-15 in Big Ten play, 7-20 overall. They all had different visions for how their seasons were going to go, whether it was as a team or different roles. Everybody is kind of working toward the same goal, you would think, as far as team success, but their own success as well throughout it. So all these guys, I don't think their story ends. Obviously, well, for one case, it doesn't end because they have other games on the road. But even after the season, a lot of these guys are going to get a chance to play professional ball, whether it's over here, over in Europe, or wherever that may be. Hopefully it is a learning experience for these guys and something that they can grow from. But it certainly is frustrating as a Nebraska fan. So I can understand some people might not quite make it over there. The other thing is, it is Iowa. That's kind of the rival, as far as, making up for what the season is. The story's already kind of been written there, but you can at least feel good if you somehow overcame Iowa and got a big victory to kind of shut them down. They're kind of having a resurgence into the top 25. A top 25 victory would certainly be by far the best victory that Fred Hoiberg's had. So still certainly a lot to play for. I feel like I was pretty good is what I feel like. And so if you were going to have that kind of moment to, okay, let's spark, and this is the team that we can do it against, it probably would have had to happen against a more of a Northwestern type, or, and that's what's frustrating is these teams that they've been playing, outside of Iowa aren't all that great. Maryland and Northwestern are right by them in the standings, well above them in the win column. But, those were the opportunities, and obviously just not getting it done last night with, at times lackadaisical defense and, the same problems that have formed around this team all year.
Think about what happened after Rutgers came in. Rutgers was coming off of a hard loss. They go on the road and they give us what they give us, and then they go on a run. And the same thing happened where Northwestern was kind of at a downtrodden situation. And then they come in and get a road win on us, and then they go on a little run.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that's what you were hoping that Minnesota would have done, and then to come back after that and to lay an egg. That's I think what's frustrating, because you've seen some of the bad teams that are also in the Big Ten. You saw them come and get a win like that. It gives you confidence. It breathes something into you. It breathes a life into you. And I can tell you that Northwestern team was playing significantly better than the first time they played them. So I can see that they've grown.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I haven't seen yet I can definitely tell Rutgers is not the same from when I saw them earlier. And now they're dang near at the top tier of the Big Ten with a terrible record. They're like 10-6. So So I'm trying to weigh it out in my head, and I'm trying to, to look at what I'm witnessing. And a team, this could have been Nebraska.
Yeah,
they really could have. They could have made a shift about about mid part of the Big Ten. They could have got it turned around. That could have been why Rutgers and not Nebraska. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. Why them and not? I mean, I know they got great senior leadership, and that's the part that I've been talking about. Who is the leader of this team? I don't know. I don't see it. Is it? Then I question whether or not it's a vocal thing, or do you want leader by example? So we know that on that team that it's Harper and what's the other guard? Gino.
Yeah, Geo Baker. Yeah,
Gino Baker. We know that they're their leaders because we see it. We can both see it, and we can see it in the huddles, and then I can see it by their play. I see it double time with them, and that's what's showing up on that team, and people are following the lead. I don't see that yet.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like you're kind of mentioning, Nebraska's become the get right game. They're the team that you beat, that you look on the schedule and say that's our get right game, and then teams are doing it. They're using that momentum to move forward and do better. Nebraska, obviously, I mean, maybe you wonder if that that bad call at the end of the North Carolina State game, and obviously the season doesn't hinge on one bad call, and not going back to the officials on that one. Nebraska needs to find a way to win those games regardless. But how could have that changed their season? Maybe get a little momentum there and start to believe in themselves and maybe hit a few more shots. You never know if it could have changed it. I don't think too drastically, but it certainly couldn't have hurt, right? The other thing is, like you were saying, it's hard for me to identify. They've made. It's hard to me to identify major strides that they've made. Usually, when you watch a basketball team, even if the record's not great, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you can say, well, that team certainly got better at least. I'm not sure if they've gotten a whole lot better. They maybe there's a little bit more kind of a team mentality. They shared the ball at times a little bit better last night, mostly the backups that came in, and then the starters kind of took that challenge and came back in, at a certain point in that game. But And certainly, again, with Bryce McGowan, you can kind of see his development as he adjusted to the physical nature of the Big Ten and all that stuff. So, I mean, individually, you can kind of see it here and there between a guy. But this is just, I've rarely seen a team where you don't think that they, like, there isn't a hot part of the season. There's not a time that you thought that they got significantly better. And there's not, and then you can't go back to your injuries, obviously, with those, factored in. Maybe they got worse because they lost a body. Yeah, I don't know.
Hands off.
Yeah, it's crazy because usually you'll see a team at least improve over the season, and that's why I think there's a big concern about partially kind of the coaching that's involved here. Whether it's the game plan from the beginning is kind of plan A, we're going to be a shooting team, and what's plan B? Well, we only recruited a shooting team.
Yeah.
And then your recruiting team can't shoot. So there was always a problem with what there was going to be in plan B, but they, in my mind, haven't figured that out quite enough yet. And we talked about it last night, like Derek Walker, Eduardo Andre, one shot altogether. I think that, in a full game against Northwestern, that's not the recipe. I can't tell you what the recipe is. Otherwise, I'd be a genius and be helping out over there. But that's not it.
Definitely not it. And look, and the thing is, and that's what I'm talking about too. Is there are things. It's KYP, right? Know your personnel. As a guard, as a player, as a teammate, you've got to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Of who you're playing with, right? I would never, coming down the court, feed Eduardo Andre outside the 3-point line on the run. I would never do that.
Yeah.
He would have to get stride at the dotted line area, catching so he can go straight up. I would never feed him like that. Derek, I could do that to him. I would not feed him low. It would have to be from chest up to where he can catch it, do something with it, and spin off of it or whatever. Maybe him. Not at the 3, but inside the 3-point to the free throw line. I would make sure Tamanaga has his feet set and feed him at a certain spot so he can have time to shoot it. Lat Man would never get a ball below his waist. If I'm driving, I'm making sure that that's happening. If don't want to minimize my turnovers, if I'm Verge, I never jump in the air again, because that's where he gets in trouble. So there are different things about their weaknesses that I would want to make sure that I feed into. There's certain plays, there's certain sets that I would know in my head to say, this is where his strength is. I can see he's got it in his eye. I'm going to go to him right now. And so those are the things that I don't see them do. I can see that on other teams, though. Yeah. I can see them going to certain areas, certain spots, certain players, certain plays when they need to get something done. I can see that on other teams, and I can't with Nebraska right now.
And that's the frustrating part, right? I mean, it's, there's the excuse early on. Okay, they're a new team, they're playing together, but at this point, those adjustments should have been made, and they haven't quite been there. So another loss for Nebraska. They'll get another chance against Iowa, and we'll talk about it still, even as depressing as it is. But it's at least interesting. And I'll always say this: I still think any day with a Husker basketball game is better than a day without it, because I do love Husker basketball, and it's still fun to watch. And hopefully they can kind of get at least one more victory here, but I think their best chance at that was last night. We'll still see around the corner here. Good news for Nebraska, at least generally good news, is that Nebraska did pick up in football a quarterback recruit, and William Watson III last night. He was the Massachusetts Player of the Year last year. He's not completely highly rated as far as a top 10 quarterback in the nation or anything like that. I think different services have him somewhere around 50 as far as the quarterbacks go, but they got one early, and it's kind of interesting because they have an opportunity. I shouldn't say have an opportunity. There's just a guy in state that is ranked pretty close to where he's at. And they've done a really good job of wrapping up a lot of the other guys in state. Benjamin Brahmer from Pierce, Nebraska has been in for quite some time. Sam Sledge, who they just got the commitment from Creighton Prep the other day. Gunnar Gottschalk from Lincoln Southeast has been in since June. So, there's these, they've been recruiting well inside the state. And they decide to go outside the state, I should say, instead of maybe taking a closer look at Zane Flores and Gretna. Do you feel like there's any problem with that? I know a lot of people want in-state recruiting, but especially for the quarterback position, usually take one a class. I don't care where he comes from. You go get your guy more so than the local guy in that case. And sometimes it can work out, like Heinrich Harburg, where you don't let him leave the state. And maybe that is your guy, the quarterback that's local. But in my mind, especially at that position, when you're only taking one guy, or and maybe they will down the line offer Zane Flores, and they'll take a 2 quarterback class if they don't want to let him go. But especially for that position, I don't have any problem looking out of state.
Yeah, thinking about that, another part about what you said about the 3-star, I happen to look at, I think, and I could be wrong, but Ndamukong Suh might have been a 3-star.
And I think he was a 4-star.
Even in a 4-star, right?
Yeah.
Look at what he's become. So I venture to say it depends on where you're from, who you get in front of, and the perceptions of what people think of you creates these stars, because we've seen 5-stars that have been busts.
Oh yeah.
Right. So therefore, I don't want to get too caught up on that. I got a chance to look at a little bit of his footwork. I saw he's got great arm strength. I would like to see more film on him before I can make that assessment. Now, the part that I see with that is this kid, since he was in the 8th grade, has definitely, it could be, I think I've heard people say 8th grade. I've heard some say as younger as 6th, 7th grade. But one of the ones I've heard, definitely junior high. Let's just say junior high. Yeah. Whipple's had his eye on this kid since junior high when he was coaching at UMass. They offered him very young. That offer transferred when he went to Pittsburgh, and then that offer has been with Whipple, and Whipple has, I think, the opportunity to get something he actually wants, that he has watched, pursued, and progressed through that whole recruiting process. I think we've got to give Whipple that one, right? because we got those out of the portal, and he's been gifted what was already here. So there's such a huge room already. This is one specific kid that he's had his eye on, and I think we should offer him that, right? I think going forward, I think going forward, as there's going to probably be some washout, then I think that's when we can make an assessment as to how we pursue in-state at that point. But yeah, I can understand how this one happened, because he's had a relationship with this kid for a long time.
Yeah, and whether it's Whipple or Joseph, it's just the new staff altogether seems to have those connections. And maybe that was part of hiring him all together. Is, hey, here's a group of kids that I think that I can bring in here at Nebraska. But it's certainly been impressive, the recruiting. I mean, the recruiting resurgence, you can almost say, from the new staff. A lot of the guys that they got out of the transfer portal, and now especially with a quarterback commit in your 2023 class, that's a big deal. Directly related to their new guys, their new hires. So definitely a resurgence there for the new staff. We'll take a quick break. When we come back here on the block, it's time for Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. I know there's some baseball news out there, so we'll break that down with him for the Husker baseball team and get his thoughts on the basketball and football team as well. That's coming up next here on the block.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harrison Arns. In girls sub-district basketball, Norris blew Nebraska City out of the gym with a final score of 74-12. Sage Burback from Norris finished with 17 points as the game's leading scorer. Waverly also got a win. They beat Plattsmouth 51-17. In girls state swimming, the Omaha Marion girls took home the Class A title by the slimmest possible margin over Lincoln Southeast, a half point to be exact. This is the Omaha Marion girls' 13th state championship. In state wrestling, Lincoln East had 5 wrestlers make it to the championship matches. They finished with Gabe Turman and Keith Smith winning individual championships. Brandon Mouser, Weston Sherlock, and Cole Toline would finish with runner-ups. In the Class B division, Waverly senior Trevor Brown won his second straight heavyweight title. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL Weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your KFXL Fox Nebraska weather. Another cold one expected for Wednesday with a high of 15, along with a mix of sun and clouds. A 40% chance for snow comes in Wednesday night with a low right around 1 below. Snow becomes likely on Thursday with a high right around 14, along with mostly cloudy skies. I'm meteorologist Regina Bird for 93.7 The Ticket and ticketfm.com.
At Buffalo Wings and Rings, they've crafted a new league of superior chicken sandwiches. Meet the Ringers. It's premium, house-made, beer-battered, fried chicken served Buffalo, Korean, or MVP style. Head to Buffalo Wings and Rings Lincoln and raise a glass to superior chicken. 2 locations at 68th and O and at 40th and Old Cheney. Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season, enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Shopping for insurance can be a tedious and frustrating task, but the agents at Brokers Insurance Agency will do the work for you. They have partnered with over 20 of the best insurance carriers in the nation, which allows them to do the shopping all for you. Whether you're looking for business insurance or employee benefits for your company, or you're looking to save money on your home and auto insurance, Brokers Insurance Agency has the agents and solutions to help meet your goals. Call 402-420-5353 or email staff at brokersinsurancene.com.
AmeriCorps programs and members are making a huge impact in Nebraska communities near you, addressing critical issues like education, conservation, and even food insecurity. Because of AmeriCorps, the Lead for Nebraska program is fighting brain drain in Nebraska's rural communities by expanding access to broadband services and digital literacy. Learn about AmeriCorps programs serving communities in your region by visiting serve.nebraska.gov. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back on the block here on 93.7 The Ticket. Myself, Jake Bakoven, and Eric Strickland, the longtime longtime NBA vet and Husker Hall of Famer, I should say. Also going to be joined by Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald here in a second. Break down some of what's going on in Husker baseball, Husker football, and Husker basketball. A lot of stuff going on across the sports landscape over there at the university. So let's go ahead and bring him on now. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Evan, how are you doing today?
Hey, guys. Doing well. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. We're just, recovering from another basketball loss, which I suppose we can get to in a second. But we want to start off with the Husker baseball team. Not much better news as we kind of recap what happened over the weekend, falling to 1-3 in their 4-game series with Sam Houston. Obviously, the Nebraska Athletic Department isn't riding too many highs, so maybe it kind of gets thrown in there. But why should we separate that start with the Husker baseball team and some of the other shortcomings with the Husker athletic department lately?
Well, for one thing, there are still 52 regular season baseball games to go ahead of the Big Ten tournament and everything. So, I think what you kind of get accustomed to as a fan, you follow football and basketball, you have 12 football games, right around 30 basketball games. And when you have 56 baseball games, there's I think a temptation to put a ton of weight on each one, right? And you get frustrated with it. And I think the way that football and basketball have gone, there's probably a little bit less patience right now for struggles the way that the baseball team opened up. But, it'll be interesting to see how they respond, because it wasn't just one thing that held them back last week. It was some pretty shaky defense. It was an offense that struck out a ton, I think 43 times in 4 games. It was starting pitching that didn't really give them any length or quality innings to speak of. And so all of that sort of snowballed into these 3 losses in 4 games. But, again, this was a team that everybody at the preseason thought would contend to win the Big Ten. That would be a regional team. You have bad weekends at times. Typically mid-February baseball games where northern teams travel, you're not always going to be all that sharp. Plus, I think it's possible that Sam Houston might actually be pretty darn good, the way that they upset another top 5 team last night in Oklahoma State. So, again, not the best start that you're looking for, but there's a long way to go. And I think, this program in the last handful of years has sort of earned the benefit of the doubt that they're going to figure some things out here, and they're going to have a great opportunity this weekend against the top 20 TCU team. So if they go out and clean up a lot of what ailed them last weekend, I think you can sort of chalk opening weekend up to some growth pains.
Yeah, Evan, I think real quick, I think that's something you just said, because I remember that one of the last times we talked, and we kind of prefaced that, is that Sam Houston team has always played the Huskers tight. And I think you might be onto something. They may be better than what you actually think they are. It's not just that was going to be their show up down there and they're going to walk away with a sweep. I didn't envision that. But so I just wanted to reference that we did talk about that. And so this isn't a shock to me that could have happened. So.
Well, no, I mean, their program, their coach is a former Husker, Jay Sirianni. He's been a really good assistant. Sam Houston's a program that in 2017 went to a super regional. I mean, they were a win away from going to the College World Series, and they're located, in the Houston area and have a great recruiting base out there to draw talent from too. So, it's not the big name program. They didn't have a ranking next to their name, but I really do think when we look back in a few months, and again, Sam Houston's schedule is set up to where they can make some noise. I mean, they play some really difficult non-conference teams, and so we're going to find out quick. But I do think, long term, even just getting the one win down there, in the end, could actually end up helping Nebraska's postseason resume.
Yeah, it's always interesting, especially from the Big Ten play, where you don't have too many ranked teams, kind of what they do with their non-con schedule. As you mentioned, TCU's the next team, the next go-round. Does the non-con schedule lighten up a little bit after that for Nebraska, or is it pretty loaded this year?
Well, Long Beach State is their home opener, and right now they're number 12 in the country. I mean, they just went down to Mississippi State and took 2 of 3 from the defending national champions. So that first weekend at Haymarket Park suddenly is looking really interesting. And I think the more that even just after one weekend, I think you can look at Nebraska's schedule and start to see, man, this thing actually could be pretty front loaded. I mean, again, we don't know how good Sam Houston might end up being. TCU has been a national seed the last couple of years, and that's going to be a great series. That's their marquee tilt coming up. And then Long Beach State, like I said, top 15. And then their first Big Ten series is against Michigan in Lincoln, and that's one of the co-Big Ten favorites right now too. So, I think you can kind of look at it in a couple of ways. One, it's going to really be telling about where Nebraska stands with this team, how they've come along. But I think also, we see it in college baseball a lot, especially from Big Ten teams and Northern teams. I mean, is the time of year when you really build your postseason resume. I mean, you get to April and May and you're playing Creighton and you're playing Michigan State and you're playing Illinois. That's not going to move the needle much in terms of your RPI and in terms of, what the selection committee will consider. But these sort of weekends are big. I mean, what Nebraska does at TCU, Long Beach State, against some of the other top teams in the conference, that's where you sort of make your money or not. And so it's kind of strange how that works sometimes, but I do think this next month or so for Nebraska is going to be really important as it tries to get back to a regional.
And I also announced today, Coach Will Bold announced today that Jake Buns will miss the rest of the season with an arm injury. How much do you think that's going to hurt Nebraska?
Yeah, it hurts. It was a tough blow, and we could kind of see that coming Saturday night just by the way that he left. He was a key part of the bullpen last year. He had 20 appearances. Nobody had more than he did. He was a starter on some of those 4-game weekends. He was an 8th inning guy a lot. I think he closed on occasion when he needed to do that. So he was really versatile for them, big personality. So you hate to see anyone go down with that kind of an injury. We didn't really know necessarily what his role was going to be this year. Probably more of the same, where he could have been potentially a midweek starter. He could have eaten some high leverage innings late out of the bullpen. And so now he's out again. And it's a tough deal, especially when you consider he's already had Tommy John surgery once. And so if that's something that he needs to undergo again, it's a long road back from it. But by all accounts, and Will Bolt said this today, I mean, Jake Buns is a baseball player. He's a guy who's going to grind it out, who loves the game. He's technically a senior, but he can come back next year potentially and be a factor. I mean, Tommy John, the recovery process from that particular injury, if that's what it is, isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
So, assuming that that's his situation and he's able to address it soon, he could still be a factor next year. But definitely a tough blow for the bullpen and what they wanted to do with him.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. He had a good live arm, and just his versatility in the pitching core was something that was valuable. So that's good. Good stuff, Evan. We picked up a recruit, man. It looks like out of the quarterback room again. It's a full room. I mean, they may have to petition for some extra space now that they have all these recruits up in there. William Watson, the third. We picked up a 3-star recruit out of Massachusetts, man. That's kind of been someone that Whipple has followed since he was in junior high, and so he is an opportunity to draw him in. Looks like they solidified him over some great Power 5 schools, some of them being Oregon, Arizona, Boston College, Michigan, Pittsburgh and Tennessee. So he's got a couple of SEC schools. Kentucky's in there as well. What's your thoughts about his potential and possibilities of jumping in this race? Or you think it's just somebody that Whipple may look to groom, kind of get his feet in, get used to what's going on down there in Lincoln before they release him to get into the fight?
Yeah, there are a lot of, I think, interesting things about William Watson's commitment. I mean, you mentioned the offers that he had. For one, that to me signals, I mean, he was a true national recruit, right? Like these weren't just Northeast offers. He was getting looks from the West Coast, from the South, from all over the place. So a lot of teams saw something in him. But, Whipple he was a big part in why Chubba Purdy came to Nebraska out of the portal. And so we got a little bit of a clue at that time about what kind of quarterback and maybe what kind of offense he wanted to run. And I think when you bring in William Watson and you look what he's done on tape, you get a little bit, maybe more of a sense of what Nebraska could do moving forward. I mean, Watson is a guy who is a true dual threat. He can run. You see that all over his huddle film, but he's got, passing is where it really is for him. And finding some of those high accuracy quarterbacks is a big part of what Nebraska and Mark Whipple want to do moving forward. And, a lot's been said about his ranking and the fact that he's a 3-star kid, but, you read some of the stuff from his own, from some media folks back where he's from in Massachusetts. I think it's fair to say that if Watson were, 3 inches taller, he would be getting offers from the best programs around the country. I mean, he's 6 foot. There are a lot of programs out there that have said, "Oh man, you're just a little bit short," but the fact is he has produced every time he's been on the field. He's won 3 state championships as the starter with his high school team. All he does is win and score points. And so, I think this is just the kind of guy that you want to find if you're Nebraska, where maybe you acknowledge that, hey, you're not going to get all the 5-star top end guys in the cycle, but if you can find a guy who's a little shorter and who's overlooked by some other programs, and you can develop that guy, I think a lot can come from that. So I think really interesting commitment and a high upside kid. It's going to be interesting to see what he does.
Well, I thought it was interesting too, because usually you just do usually it's a 1 quarterback commit per class. Sometimes teams will go out there and grab 2 of them. Nowadays, who knows with the portal and everything that goes on, it's going to be hard. I mean, do you think that these these commitments from freshmen have as big an impact maybe as they had in the past? Because I mean, it's a huge deal that, like I said, the 1 quarterback per class usually is kind of the headline of your class. But nowadays, I guess just based on this past year and looking at everything that's going on over the last several years, a lot of big time programs are picking up their quarterbacks out of the portal more so than as freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, it does change the tenor of things a little bit. I think there was some stat that, if you're a 4-star quarterback, like half of them or more have entered the portal, and changed schools from what their original commitments are. So there's certainly that realization out there. And I mean, you look at Nebraska's room right now, they already have 5 scholarship players, and you break it down, in theory, all of them could be back by the time William Watson gets to campus. I mean, Casey Thompson's just a junior by eligibility this year. And I think it's just sort of the reality in college football now that if you build up your quarterback room, it's sort of inevitable that somebody's going to leave. And so, maybe that'll be the case for Nebraska after the spring when the writing's on the wall for somebody. Maybe that'll be the case, after next season. But the fact is that Nebraska under Scott Frost has always wanted to have a big quarterback room. They've always been that way, and their approach has been to offer a handful of kids in each class and then say, hey, if you're ready to pull the trigger, it's kind of a first come, first serve sort of deal. And, Watson was the guy who was ready to do that. And they had some other offers out to some other guys, but he was the one who jumped in the boat. So, whether he ends up being the guy for Nebraska in 2 or 3 or 4 years is so hard to say because of the portal. But again, this is someone who, unlike the portal, you don't have to develop a sort of a shotgun relationship with. He's, like you guys have said, he's known Mark Whipple for many years. I think it was interesting too that Nebraska and Scott Frost were interested in William Watson before Mark Whipple joined the staff too. So there was some mutual interest kind of both ways. And they feel like they know each other well enough to have some success down the road.
And one final question for you, Evan, before we get you out here. We got to get your opinion on the Husker basketball team. Obviously, things not going well over there at Pinnacle Bank Arena or wherever they play. Last night, Welsh Ryan Arena, losing to Northwestern, falling to 7-20 and 1-15 in the Big Ten. Just a lot of conversations and rumors circulating about Fred Hoiberg's job status at this point. With that huge buyout, do you think that it's more likely that Hoiberg is retained, or do you think that there's more likely of a possibility that Nebraska could be out there looking for another coach at the end of this thing?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, what do? Do you pay the $18 million, or do you roll it back and hope that more of the same turns into something different with some of the recruits they have, and this idea that maybe with some assistant coaching changes and some more roster turnover, things would change. I don't have. I mean, I don't have the answer to it. It's a hard position to be in, especially when you consider that if you do bring him back and things don't go well next year, it's still a $15 million buyout, and then you're another year deep, potentially into alienating your fan base and building up that frustration as well. So, I think if you had a game plan moving forward, maybe that would be a factor. I've heard some speculation that maybe because of the new upcoming media rights deals that the Big Ten is going to sign, and that'll increase the revenue that each school gets from low $50 million to upwards of 70 or more million per year per school. Maybe that would make a difference or factor into the decision to down the stretch. But it's just tough because if you really feel like this program is losing traction, if you feel like you're losing season ticket holders and you're losing fans, then the difference in $3 million probably can't be that important to you. I think you have to build that hope. You have to have supporters. You have to have fannies in the seats. And if you don't have that, then I'm not sure what good that money is going to do. So it's a tough decision ahead. I wouldn't want to be the one making it, but it does seem like maybe kind of the soul of the program is a little bit more important than the bottom line right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling that I'm starting to get to around that decision. He's Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Evan, thanks again for joining us today here on the block.
Thanks as always, guys.
All right, there he goes, Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. It is that time of the day. It's time for a Shootout with Strick. Give us a call, 402-464-5685. The first one in line will have chance in at $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. All you have to do is beat Eric Strickland in a shootout game show format that we have here. Today's topic is going to be last night's game against Northwestern. So maybe do a little bit of your homework during the break, try to figure it out. But that's what's coming up next here is Shootout with Strick on the block on 93.7 The Ticket.
Shopping for insurance can be a tedious and frustrating task, but the agents at Brokers Insurance Agency will do the work for you. They have partnered with over 20 of the best insurance carriers in the nation, which allows them to do the shopping all for you. Whether you're looking for business insurance or employee benefits for your company, or you're looking to save money on your home and auto insurance, Brokers Insurance Agency has the agents and solutions to help meet your goals. Call 402-420-5353 or email staff@brokersinsurancene.com.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harrison Arns. In girls sub-district basketball, Norris blew Nebraska City out of the gym with a final score of 74-12. Sage Burback from Norris finished with 17 points as the game's leading scorer. Waverly also got a win. They beat Plattsmouth 51-17. In girls state swimming, the Omaha Marion girls took home the Class A title by the slimmest possible margin over Lincoln Southeast, a half point to be exact. This is the Omaha Marion girls' 13th state championship. In state wrestling, Lincoln East had 5 wrestlers make it to the championship matches. They finished with Gabe Turman and Keith Smith winning individual championships. Brandon Mouser, Weston Sherlock, and Cole Toline would finish with runner-ups. In the Class B division, Waverly senior Trevor Brown won his second straight heavyweight title. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season, enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
At Buffalo Wings and Rings, they've crafted a new league of superior chicken sandwiches. Meet the Ringers. It's premium, house-made, beer-battered, fried chicken served buffalo, Korean, or MVP style. Head to Buffalo Wings and Rings Lincoln and raise a glass to superior chicken. 2 locations at 68th and O and at 40th and Old Cheney. Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Kfxl Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues, but things continue to loosen up as Kfxl gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at KfxlCars.com. You'll be glad you did.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. 93.7 The Ticket. Fox, KFXL Weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your first alert weather forecast for tonight, cloudy and cold, overnight lows 3 above. Snow chances throughout today on Thursday, cold again, highs right around 17. I'm NTV Chief Forecaster Ken Fountain for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com. It's time to play Shootout with Strick. Call now, 464-5685, to take your shot against Eric Strickland. Shootout with Strick. Brought to you by Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Time to play the game!
It's time for Shootout with Strick right here on the block on 93.7 The Ticket. The winner will receive $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. And if Strick wins, by the way, then the third caller gets to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. And he's been winning lately. But Drew is here to compete with Strick, and we'll see if Drew can get it done. Drew, how do you feel? Did you watch last night?
He's not Uncle Drew. As long as he ain't Uncle Drew, we good.
I did watch last night's game, and I've got some of my boys in here who they watched some of the game with me. So kind of tuning in and out.
He's got lots of help there. I don't know if that's allowed, but we'll let it go for today. Drew's got some help before. All right, before you get your game show running there, Drew, we're going to start with Strick, so you know what point total you have to get to. Strick, obviously, you did watch the game last night. You did the post game show. We've been talking about it a little bit, so you are well prepared. Nobody used their box score. That's cheating because we're going off the box score a little bit here. But all right, Strick, are you ready?
Eyes be ready.
All right, we'll go in 3, 2, 1. How many points did Bryce McGowan's have? 15 or 16?
16.
It was actually 15. Derek Walker had double-digit rebounds. True or false?
True.
That's correct. Who led the Huskers in assists? C.J. Wilter or Derek Walker?
Derek Walker.
That's correct. How many in-conference losses does Nebraska now have? 15 or 16?
16.
It's actually 15. How many points did Nebraska score last night?
63.
Oh, it's 65. You almost got it.
I was like, go with your first gut, Strick. Oh, that's the second time I did that, Bart.
Sometimes your gut instinct is the best. Either way, you ended up with 2 points, which is an okay score. Maybe that's enough to get the win today. But Drew, are you ready to go? You just have to get 3 points for the win, 2 for the tie.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll go in 3, 2, 1. How many points did Trey McGowan's have? 8 or 11?
11.
He actually had 8. Bryce McGowan's had double-digit rebounds. True or false?
True.
That's correct. Who led Northwestern in points, Boo Buie or Pete Nance?
First one.
It was actually Pete Nance. Which team had more total rebounds, Nebraska or Northwestern?
Northwestern.
It was actually Nebraska. How many points did Northwestern score last night?
75.
Oh, it was actually 77. 1 point there for you, Drew. That means that Strick do not fear, Drew. Once I say the third caller, you got to hang up here. But once I say third caller, Drew, as well as everybody else, will have the opportunity to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings on behalf of Strick for getting the win. So right now, third caller will win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. We got to give Strick his win. He's been just dominating everybody recently. Strick, the point is to try to encourage them to play with well, not just
I'm trying to step on next. If the Husker basketball team is taking these L's, East Stricky can't take them too. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Flawless
victory. Congratulations on another win. Hey, at least this time you're not racking up the points. You've been getting 5 or 6 every game.
I know.
Just 2, but today 2 gets it done. How about the tiebreaker in case we had to get there? What is Northwestern's in-conference record after last night's game?
In conference?
Yep.
4-11.
They're actually up to 6-11. So they've got what was on the line for them is to try to play out of that first, get a bye in the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, there's because the bottom 4 teams are going to have to play in the Big Ten tournament the first round, and that makes it quite more difficult for a team like Northwestern.
I like that format. I actually like that format. I think it's pretty cool.
And they have to do something with 14 teams if they're going to get everybody involved. I'd feel really bad. It wouldn't feel like basketball if they'd eliminated the bottom few teams and they didn't get a chance to play.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it would be different than other conferences, so it'd be interesting at least.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that it gives you something. It makes every game mean something. So where do you want to do? Do you because when you think about it, an extra game means something. As far as your win capacity, if you're not a deep team, that extra game means something. I can remember back when the Big 8 tournament, them 3 games back to back was a summer. That hurt. I mean, it hurt. I think it was so much hurt to me that it was a carryover. We expended so much energy mentally and physically that it carried over because we had a short week turnaround. We had to head to the NCAA tournament like shortly after that week to play that Thursday game. I mean, it really was that draining. It really was.
Did you guys win on Selection Sunday, or was it Saturday?
Oh,
I always thought that was
it was Sunday. It was Sunday. It was Sunday. Yeah, we had a Sunday game.
Thought that was difficult for guys. How much do you celebrate and that big thing you just accomplished, and all of a sudden you got to focus on your next opponent. Your coach won't let you celebrate for a day.
Yeah, it did, and it hurt. It really did hurt us. I mean, then we had to play, I think, that Thursday game. So
right away.
We didn't even get an extra day. So yeah, it does kind of affect you. So I can imagine with that Big Ten extra game. So that means you have to play 4 games instead of 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's shoot. I mean, I know these kids today play in the AAU circuit, and they're playing 3 and 4 games a day, but that's different. That's a whole different thing when you're talking about physicality and wind, and then you can play 30 plus games. Another thing before we get out of here, Bob. I don't think college kids understand what that next level is, because that wall that they talk about, that professional wall where you go from playing 30 to 80, that thing hit different. So everybody that thinks that you could just jump into the league and everything's gonna be gravy and You're gonna be Super Mario and just pop in and just hit the mushroom and pop up big. No, sir. That thing hits. So it's a whole different mentality. Playing in the bubble ain't like, playing on hitting that road trip where you got to go out west and get in flights at 3 a.m.
Was that a bigger wall than the freshman wall going from high school to college? Was that bigger?
No question. No question.
That's a lot of games.
No question. No question.
By the way, Eagle Delivery will, for whoever wins at any time, in this game show, Eagle Delivery helps us out now delivering the prizes. Lincoln's home grown courier service is what we use. So we're very excited to partner with them. And the third caller ended up getting that today. Strick, by the way, somebody off the text line, Qdoba guy says, I'm tired of callers losing. I'm calling in tomorrow. Coming for you, Strick.
Come get it. You come get it. I'm right here. 2 feet down. Yeah, and I still know how to squat. I still know how to squat and get them dead in the shoe. I give you good 5 minutes of deep. That's what I give you. That's all I can give you. Good 5 minutes.
Hey, it's more than most people can do at this point. But that we got to get to a break. But every day at 4:45, the shootout starts. You hear the shootout music, give it a call in for your chance to beat Strick. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll jump into some more Husker football talk. Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald wrote an excellent article. Prove it time for 7 Huskers. So we'll run through some of those names that he mentioned and kind of maybe give our own of guys that we think need to step up this season. It's kind of make or break for a lot of these guys. So we'll get into that next year on the block on 93.7 The Ticket.
At Buffalo Wings and Rings, they've crafted a new league of superior chicken sandwiches. Meet the Ringers. It's premium, house-made, beer-battered, fried chicken served Buffalo, Korean, or MVP style. Head to Buffalo Wings and Rings Lincoln and raise a glass to superior chicken. 2 locations at 68th and O and at 40th and Old Cheney. Buffalo Wings and Rings.
March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300 or go to choicestreatmentcenter.com.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Today on Hey Culligan, why does your team stink? Here's Coach Waters.
Hey Culligan, yeah, my team stinks.
Ooh, harsh.
No, I mean they stink. They won't hit the showers because it makes their skin all dry and itchy.
Coach, it sounds like your guys have been hit hard by hard water.
You kidding me? Hard water?
Yep, so let's call an audible in the form
day
of
on the block.
Water softener to get the
finish
smooth
up the segment.
stink out of your team.
Okay, Culligan, I'm putting you in.
Coach, we're already on the way. Go to CulliganLincoln.com and schedule your free water test today.
Casey's General
here on the
Stores,
block today.
The chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season. Enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has a selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets to Nebraska men's basketball games. You spend more time in your garage than outdoors. Isn't it time to get it organized? Call Travis at Classic Garage Solutions for his variety of organization packages. Turn your garage from a cluttered mess to a clean, organized space that'll be the envy of the neighborhood and something you can be proud of. You don't need to bring the same clutter from last year into the new year. Travis has storage options for cabinets, monkey bar shelving, or slat wall, and more. Call Classic Garage Solutions today at 402-730-1638.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and lover of bread, Jake Bockelman.
What? I like bread.
Coming at you live from the Kfxl Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Strick and Bob. Hold up.
Back on the block with Strick and Bach. We're in the second hour once again. Again, you can always find us. You can find us streaming over at Twitch. You can find us streaming also on Facebook and other platforms like Google and what is it called? Apple. I don't know. We're all over the place. Spotify. Go jump over there. You can find us live there. And right here, tap that subscribe button. Hit that like button. We're on the block right here. Every day from 4 to 6 Central Standard Time. It may be cold where you at, so you can bundle up, put on a nice blanket, a Snuggie or something like that, and join us on the block. We're talking all things sport. Right now, we're going to get into some USFL information. We got a few draftees from Nebraska that popped up on the draft, so that's some good stuff. I mean, we got to be proud of our young fellas. I don't know what's happening right now with the USFL and how the effects are going to – we're going to talk about that right now as well. What the effects of the USFL, and they're going to try to buck up against the Brahma Bull and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, the XFL. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? You can smell it right here on the block. We're going to talk about it right now. Jake Bockelman, it's a beautiful day, man. It's Thursday. Is it Thursday?
No, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. See, you see what I'm thinking about. What am I thinking about?
Thursday.
You already know. I'm a day ahead of y'all. So no, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. So yeah, Jake. So what we found is we found a few Huskers that popped up on the radar in the USFL draft. Man, I think that's a pretty positive thing. One of the things is that what is the competition going to be like? What is we know that there's some differentiations on their time schedules. It's looking like they're trying to work that out right now to where. The USFL will start, I think, in January up until maybe April timeframe, and then right when they end, then it looks like the XFL will pop in. That would be good for Eastrick because that part of the season, other than March Madness, gets real kind of boring, so to speak. So tell me about the USFL, your thoughts and on the current players and who popped up on the radar out there for the USFL draft.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. They did their first round draft. I think they have 8 teams, so these draft, the rounds go pretty quick, and they're trying to fill up a whole team. So this isn't just like the NFL draft where you try to take 7 or 8 guys to add to your team. So they have these huge rounds that they had, and like round 29 is outside linebacker, round 30 is outside linebacker. So they have like different rounds of which round 32 is kicker. They have different times at which you can draft different positions, so it doesn't necessarily correlate that like we traditionally think of drafts the higher pick the better or whatever and so forth there. But it's kind of fun to follow along some of the names that you recognize from around college football or brief stints in the NFL. For example, yesterday in the first round they did quarterbacks, and there were several notable quarterbacks. I shouldn't say several. I guess there was more that I didn't necessarily know or remember as opposed to ones that I did. But they did have, let me see if I can run down, like Shea Patterson, who was a Michigan quarterback for a while. He was the first overall pick. Clayton Thorson, former Northwestern quarterback, of course, had his stint in the NFL, was a first round pick. Their last round last year, Braxton Lynch even was picked, and he's it's kind of crazy. With these different names, it's fun to see like how many years ago are some of these guys. How many of them? Because you think of that draft, that's the Carson Wentz draft that Braxton Lynch came in. So it's just kind of interesting to compare those. But for Nebraska guys, Freedom Akinmolden was the first one taken by the Philadelphia Stars. Then there was a couple other guys. Josh Banderas was also taken by the Stars today.
Kerryon Williams. Yeah.
Taken by the Panthers. So it's kind of cool. I think, and then there's just other names: Stevie Scott, Mike Weber, Scooby Wright, Bug Howard, different guys that you remember maybe from college. Maybe you don't remember those names, probably other ones that you are particularly remember. But it's kind of cool to see. It's not huge names. It's not big names. But I do think that I'll be a little bit interested to check out how some of the former Huskers are, guys that you wouldn't necessarily think still were playing in professional football, or they kind of get lost. You'll get a chance to see them on TV.
That's the part right there, because actually I've stayed in contact somewhat with Kerryon Williams, and I could just see he wanted it so bad. He was pressing and he was just looking for any opportunity. And that's the thing about it. There was really not many opportunities out there other than the Canadian Football League. And what happens is sometimes players go up there and they kind of get lost in the shuffle, and they find themselves up there. And we don't really have too much connection to the Canadian football unless you got cable TV and, you tap into some of the bottom parts of ESPN 4 or something like that. It ain't ESPN 2. It ain't, none of those. No. It's that ESPN Classic or something way down the line. And so that's what makes it difficult for us to be able to keep our eyes on how these guys are going. I think that not only for how sports were when we experienced through the COVID and through the pandemic situation where it was just a loss on TV programming. I could tell you probably everybody and their mama went into binge mode on The Walking Dead and Star Wars, and they went back and like, I didn't see that in Star Wars, and everybody was kind of just watching everything, binging on Netflix and all of those different programming, and didn't really have sports. So I found that this right here is going to provide a segment where the energy for football and give opportunity for kids and young men that feel as if they've lost their way and their time and their opportunity to be able to still be close and be seen by those top tier football programs. And I would hope that they would be able to work something out to where there could be some translation, because some of these kids are on practice squads or on those extra roster spot squads, and they really aren't getting an opportunity, right? They're getting paid, but maybe there could be some way in which they can kind of move some of these guys in and allow them to be able to get some runs, 2-3 games with some teams to give them some film work, and also to continue to progress in their game so they're just not lost on a practice squad.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely kind of for those fringe players. And then every once in a while, you kind of go back to the Arena League or the early days of the XFL. You can see huge success stories. I mean, Kurt Warner, obviously the biggest one. The movie just made of him, obviously, going from the Arena League and using that to get the attention of the Rams. And obviously the rest is history. We won a Super Bowl there, went to a few others there in Arizona. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. A lot of people remember from the first XFL. He hate me, Rod Smith. They could put whatever they want on the back of their jerseys. Some guy told him he hated him, so he put it on the back of his jersey. He didn't have a nickname yet, so he said, he hated him. Good one. He ended up playing in the Super Bowl with the Panthers, albeit in much of a lesser role than Kurt Warner. But it is those kind of stories that are few and far between that I think that hopefully that you'll get out of here again. And aside from that, I think it's just cool, especially for the former Husker part. I wonder, I can't imagine being too interested in the league without having some names that you can remember. And like I was saying, whether it's former Huskers or even like a Shea Patterson or just, guys that played in the Big Ten, that played against Nebraska, that you can remember. I mean, that's exactly up my alley. I love the kind of the fringe players, the role players at times, or the good college players that just don't translate to the NFL to be out there competing. I just fear, again, looking through the rosters, and it'd be hard to do this, but maybe there would be a way to kind of regionalize it a little bit better, because there might be a name, 2, 3 that on each roster, but most of them are filled up with just other former college football fringe players, not necessarily all conference guys. So if you don't spend too much time watching the MAC of 2016, you might not know a few different guys on the roster, even moving it up to like the Pac-12 or the ACC of 2017, because we're all kind of in our own separate bubble, right? So I kind of thought that it'd be a cool idea if they could somewhat put together a former Big Ten team against a former SEC team. And I think that might be able to draw the attention a little bit more from college football fans, would be more interested, I think, invested in it. And I don't know how hard that would be, but obviously regionally, it kind of makes sense for a lot of those guys. If they were willing to live wherever they did in college, they would probably be willing to live in that same type of area. I don't know if that's a possibility, but to me, when I'm looking at these other leagues that are trying to take up space where the NFL doesn't have much of it, that would be one idea to me that I thought that would work out. And I don't know how difficult it would be again, but none of these leagues are doing that sort of thing. And I think that's what makes it difficult, is that, I might, the Philadelphia team has 2 former Huskers, but if they're not, if one of them's playing, the other one is in a reserve role, is that going to grab my attention for a few games, for the whole game, I should say, while I don't know a lot of these other guys and their stories?
Yeah, I mean, those are some good ideas. I think also too, when you look at it right now, as it unfolds, it looks like Fox has basically taken over the USFL. So there's got some money. It looks like it's got roughly around 150 million in their budget for next 2-3 years, that they're going to be able to have at least some financing backing to be able to do some things. I think it's also being set up quite nicely based on the number of teams on each in the XFL as well as the USFL right now, that it's kind of tailoring itself to a potential merge. Because when the original USFL started off, they had about 18 teams, so that was something. And I think right now there's a lot of vying going on between making sure maybe that they don't. It looks like the USFL was trying to jump in and get certain markets out front, and a lot of them are some original markets. So that's something that's kind of already tailored to them. And then it looks like the XFL is kind of still staying on course with what they have, but it would set up really nicely for a potential merge. Obviously, Fox backing the USFL, and then the XFL having a relationship with the NFL would bode well for sustainability, long-term sustainability, if they can work things out, especially with the relationship that the USFL is trying to tidy up on being a place where they can go and get find out different adjustments that they can make. I love some of the rules that are out there. I think the 1, 2, and 3 point extra point is dope. I think the kickoff that they have is pretty dope. That'll minimize injuries, and that they put you at about 10 yards away, kick the ball, and you can come up with creative means and methods by which to break. Yes, so it's minimizing the long runs and all of those types of things as well. And then I think the XFL line up at the 15-yard line, put the ball on the 50. First one to get there, you get the ball. I think those types of things are pretty cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I just love the potential innovations that can be implemented. I like some of them with dealing with pass interferences. They're only going to be 15 yards and not the length of the field. If you throw it all the way to the end zone, you don't line up at the 3-yard line type of deal. 15 yards, baby. That's what you get. So I think there's some good things there.
Yeah, I ultimately, again, I don't necessarily believe in these leagues working out. You wonder how long, like you said, the backing from a major TV network is absolutely crucial and huge for them. The XFL, at least having the face of The Rock, I think it gives them another opportunity. But let's be honest, this is XFL 3.0. 2.0 at a short stint, 1.0 didn't work out in the long run. None of these leagues ultimately do. So maybe if they can gain enough traction to eventually merge, that would also kind of open it up, because it does feel very minor league when you have 8 teams, right? I mean, because it's just not that much of a competition. If you can't be the world champ if you only beat 7 other teams. It doesn't necessarily feel like that. That's about half the size of conferences in football, in college football these days.
Bob, let's think about this part of it though, right? Think about right now with what's going on with CBA for the Major League Baseball. So we know they're still working out those details. We probably, this month is coming up for spring training, which we'll be able to start kind of knowing what that's gonna look like. Then you've got to look at the aspect of there's been some droppage in other sports. basketball has lost a lot of retention on some of theirs based on some of the history of what happened over the COVID situation. So some of their numbers are down. So numbers are down for specific people for whatever reason their reasons are for why they're not watching anymore. And so there's a whole treasure trove of the ones that right now are making their way back is football. So right now there's a whole treasure trove of uninterested some people in other sports right now that are kind of looking for something to be able to pop their head in and maybe gain a little interest, right? To be able to take their kid or their son to the game. And obviously you're not paying the same prices that you would pay if you're, going to an NFL game. And so those type of outings are something I can tell you that lovely families love going to spring training and down in Arizona and down in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
You have those opportunities to go and it's not an expensive ticket. Some of them are going to AAA baseball games and things like that. You're getting good turnouts for that. So I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, let us know what you think on the Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. What's your interest level and how could these leagues improve? Because I think they're not asking us, but I think that it's pretty much it's the big question because there's been plenty of leagues that have gave this a shot, including ones with these names before that haven't quite worked out. Eric says it will flop. Nobody wants to watch backup players playing mediocre football. So I mean that is the ultimate problem, I suppose, that they have is that kind of view, and I, that's kind of what it is. Adam says, I think the NFL should have a feeder system like the NHL, where you have NHL, AHL, ECHL. The NFL could do NFL, XFL, USFL, and each team is affiliated with an NFL team. I like that idea because, like I said, I think that you've got to find a way to get in to I mean, the problem with the monopoly that you're going up against, for one, with college football in the NFL, it is a different time in the fall. So clearly you're not going up head to head with them. And so these leagues have figured that out. But the other part is their built-in massive fan bases that you have in the NFL and in college football. And you don't have that just starting anew with these leagues. So I think that would be wise of them, like I said, to incorporate conferences in college football, or like he just said, is maybe have some sort of affiliation with an NFL team. I know one of the XFL teams kind of looks like, I think the Houston team their logo kind of looks like the old Houston Oilers logo. I don't know how legal it is or how much they were able to kind of get away with that, but that's that's something that, okay, there's my team. I love the Oilers from back in the day. That logo is one of the best. And that's something that you can kind of get a built-in fan base off of. I think that's really where they're going to struggle because, like I said, even going through the draft, you can pick apart some guys that you liked or went to your school. But for the most part, these are going to be fringe players that you didn't ever knew existed for a lot of the time. And then, like we said from the beginning, it's very few and far between that any of them will go on to become anything, at the next level. And of course, the to the NFL, I should say. But the biggest thing too is if you can kind of get these college stars that don't work out in the NFL. I don't think Paxton Lynch is quite that guy, but it's Johnny Manziel. I know they kind of went through him with the CFL. If every there's not so many Johnny Manziels that it would be easy to do. But if you can get, those type of notorieties, get Robert Griffin out of the booth again, but those type of guys, that would draw in major attention because those guys have built-in fan bases. I just think that that's the one thing that these leagues are missing. And the most important thing, and they've got to find a way to incorporate that. And I don't see enough of that in these leagues as of yet.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why these things are debatable, right? It's speculation. No one can really assess or tell you what it's going to look like or what it's going to be. We know what it's looked like in the past. We understand that it's failed and it's flopped, and we thought, as the XFL was starting to gain a little bit of traction prior to the COVID situation, it was starting to look like there were some things that was coming, culminating out of it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it gets shut down. So that's the hard part about it, is that you didn't get to really see and get a full assessment. It was really just a small sample size of what the potential could have been. Now we're going to get to see. The problem, I think, with it is if there's overlap or there's competing factions, and it's going to divert and dilute just people's interest potentially. And I'm not going to say that's the case, but it has the potential to do that. So that's the thing we're going to watch for. I just support the young Huskers. I support those that are getting the opportunity to continue to play the game that they love so much. I mean, it's hard because there's such a huge turnover of top-tier talent that's coming out every year, going into the combines, leaving early. You've got all these different things. And so those that have missed time don't have the resume, don't have the tape, don't have those things that can get to organizations to be able to get an inroad once that time has passed. And once so much time has passed, I think in the same manner, other than the draft, those executives are just kind of sitting on their hands and just kind of looking at their boards and trying to figure it out and what they're going to do and they're going to plan. I think this will give them an opportunity to kind of see if they can find a diamond in the rough out there. I mean, they're out there. You just never know.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully we'll see that, and I think we will. But I think you're right. I think there is a big problem when you're introducing all these new names and brands, and you have a competing league there. It's going to be hard to remember which teams are which, and all that sort of stuff as you're just getting going. Of course, naturally, you start to think, I wonder if a team in Omaha or Lincoln would work. Specifically, I think it would be pretty cool if they did try that. Kind of going along with my theme is to find fan bases that are just football frenzy that aren't necessarily pro markets. Kind of Lincoln or go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. If you fill those team with former Huskers, former Crimson Tide, maybe South Bend, something like that. Get those guys going. I think people would be interested in a spring league and just to see how those guys, if some of your former players can kind of work out and kind of build the team basically around them. I think they could get a lot of support from the football frenzied college towns that they're in. But then, does the University of Nebraska, University of Alabama, any of those teams, do they want that, or is that taking a bit of a shine away from their team? Or, I mean, would it be beneficial? Would it be something that you go, we take care of our Huskers around here so much that we have a league that we have that we kind of funnel them into? So I think that would be interesting. Yeah. I don't know if those leagues would be interested, but again, I just think, like, especially, a Philadelphia USFL team, you got a lot of competition there. There's a lot of already big time pro teams there that, it's kind of like why you don't see, minor league baseball teams in the top markets because they get lost.
And the Omaha Beef, actually, I heard the Omaha Beef and the Lincoln team actually had some pretty good success when they were playing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there wasn't a lot of sustainability in the region to be able to maintain it. Just not a lot of teams, and the markets weren't big enough. But arena football kind of, it hit for a second, but then it just really wasn't a full the concept of the game. I just really couldn't feel it. I thought the field was just way too small. But that's just me. That's my opinion. But nonetheless, we're going to come back right after this and maybe talk a little bit more about the Huskers and their floundering in the field of play on the court. Maybe just a little bit. We'll touch on that. We'll get back right after this on The Block.
March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300 or go to choicestreatmentcenter.com.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season, enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. 93.7 The Ticket. Fox, KFXL Weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
You're first to learn weather Forecast tonight, cloudy and cold. Overnight lows 3 above. Snow chances throughout today on Thursday. Cold again. Highs right around 17. I'm NTV Chief Forecaster Ken Boughton for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Kfxl Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues, but things continue to loosen up as Kfxl gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at KfxlCars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Today on Hey Culligan, why does your team stink? Here's Coach Waters.
Hey, Culligan. Yeah, my team stinks.
Ooh, harsh.
No. I mean, they stink. They won't hit the showers because it makes their skin all dry and itchy.
Coach, it sounds like your guys have been hit hard by hard water.
You kidding me? Hard water?
Yep, so let's call an audible in the form of one Culligan Smart High-Efficiency Water Softener to get the smooth back in their skin and the stink out of your team.
Okay, Culligan, I'm putting you in.
Coach, we're already on the way. Go to CulliganLincoln.com and schedule your free water test today.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back on the block. Here to talk a little bit more about the Husker football team and the wonderful article that was written out of the Omaha World Herald, as well as maybe touch on the trouble in Evanston that happened that still has my heart kind of sunken in. But nonetheless, it's springtime. It's right around the corner. I can't believe how fast, Bach, that this year is already starting to fly. It's almost March. You guys are almost through the winter.
That's right. It's cold out.
This is I used to think it was the weirdest thing because I used to think that winter was in like December, November. I used to think those were cold, but they say the coldest times of winter is like at the end of it, like in the February time frame. So I always thought that was odd. I was like, how do you figure? That's getting closer to spring, but you go figure. How have you guys fared this year as far as snow and all of that stuff? Just mostly cold, not as much snow.
Yeah. Last year we had like a record snow fall at one point. I think in late January. That was it was like compared to the 97. Were you around for the 97? You were gone by then. Were you
out of there?
Yeah.
In
But 97.
Dallas.
Yeah. 97, there was this huge snowstorm that everybody remembers. And for years and years, it thought that it would never be passed up. But then last year, I think at least in some metrics, it was passed up by that snowstorm in late January. This year, we've been lucky. We've kind of mostly missed the snow. I don't know what that means for the crops or that. So some people can say that's not lucky. I don't really know. But ultimately, I just know that I hate snow. And like you said, I like it before. I like December snow. It kind of gets you in the mood for Christmas. One of my favorite holidays. Yeah, I don't mind I like a white Christmas especially. It's nice when it happens. But then as soon as New Year's is done, you're just kind of out of the holiday mood. You want to move on, and that's when the snow dump usually comes. But we've been lucky. We've been avoiding it, and now it's been typical Nebraska. Right today, it's like -1 or whatever, and then next Wednesday, I think it's going to be like 70 degrees, and we just went through a week.
That's that schizophrenic stuff.
Yeah.
And so like for me, it's like you come out of the winter time frame after Thanksgiving, and then you eat the Christmas dinners, and your stomach is full, and you're getting fat as a house. And so then you're creating these New Year's resolutions of I'm gonna get back in the gym, I'm going full tilt, full time, and then the next thing you know, that brick is out there. So it's like, oh, I won't go today, it's too cold. And then unless you got your Peloton sitting in the house or something that, you most likely you kind of I'll start in March. I'll get my summer body ready. That just tends to happen all the time, right? But yeah, but what's happening right now? The Omaha World Herald wrote a wonderful article. I thought, in looking at that, they're talking about when we get into the spring practices are looming and they're coming very fast. There's a lot of things that a lot of people want to see, but some of those things are opportunities for some players that have been in the system a little bit, had an opportunity to see what's going on, to see what they like and don't like, and transitions of coaches and those that left, and maybe some that they didn't think liked them very much. And now it's another opportunity with a new coach coming in to be able to get another look. Sometimes you got those situations, so there's a little invigoration that goes on with that. But at the same time, 7 Huskers that have prove it time. Let's talk about that a little bit, Bach. Who are some of those names that pop up on there? What is your expectations about what you think they have an opportunity to do? Can they shine their light bright, or do you think they'll fade off in the great good night?
Again, what's a great article from Sam McEwen if you want to go read it, so you can kind of get these names down there as well. But he listed out a few of them that we'll get to. Maybe we won't break all of them for him, so that you still have an incentive to go read his article. But I thought that there were some interesting ones that he mentioned in there, and I like the article overall. I mean, it's prove it time. This is a good group of guys that have been around for a while, had the expectations at one point in time in their career, and now it's kind of either, hey, these guys are going to make it, this is their time to be an impact, or they're probably going to get recruited over. And that's where I see Alante Brown. That's where he's got Alante Brown in this article. He's spent some time as a kick returner. The kick returning unit has been awful. I don't know how much of that is his fault, but one of the parts of the reasons why it hasn't been good is they seem to get tackled on the first contact to begin with, and so that is partially on him. I think part of this is probably a failed, a lot of guys that didn't turn out here at Nebraska that have gone and moved on at the wide receiver position. Obviously, Nebraska making a change to bring in Mickey Joseph to change that narrative, but that was a problem last year. And I think Alante Brown has been recruited over before, obviously, like bringing in Samori Toure. And I think it happened again. I mean, they brought in a few more wide receivers from the portal. I don't know if it's because they don't trust him or the way that he's coming along, or if it's just, but I have to believe that that's part of it. So I think that there's a lot of incentive for Alante Brown to get it done. And this is his prove it year. I guess among the group, I don't have a very as high of a hope for him, just because like I said, the way that I'm reading it is he continues to be recruited over even into this offseason.
Yeah, I think that's one to look at. I think one of the ones I'm interested in seeing, because of some of the changes in the losses in the secondary, is safety Noah Pola Gates, being one of the highest recruited in the class of 2019, which featured also Wan'Dale Robinson, who has left, and then some of the other guys like Nick Heinrich and Bryce Benhart and Ty Robinson, who have all become starters. He finds himself, he was the number 3 highest recruit that came in, found himself lost behind Deontay Williams and Markel Dismuke. But I think some of the good things that they say are coming out of there is that he's soaking everything up. I think what happens is you come in, you start smelling yourself, you start feeling yourself a little bit, and you really find out that those rankings don't mean a doggone thing when there's other guys there that are vying for position and want the job. And so as of right now, I mean, he has as good a chance as any to pop himself into there. He's very familiar with the system, but being able to not only lock down on the play calls and directing the secondary in some instances, he would have to be able to also look at who's coming in with Deshaun Singleton, and then there's other versatile cornerback safety types that are kind of finding their way into the program as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs, being that there's some openings there at that safety position that some players are looking to kind of jump into. That's one that I would find interesting, to include one that I would let you put your eyes on next, and then I'll give my next one, who I think is next on that line.
Yeah, while we're in the secondary, I think Braxton Clark is a fascinating one. He's a guy that looked to me like he was going to take that spot opposite. I mean, just the way that he was playing toward the end of his freshman year looked like he was going to take that spot opposite Cam Taylor-Britt. he got injured. Quentin Newsome stepped up, and Quentin Newsome's now a guy that you expect to start. I mean, he's a returning starter. He was part of that secondary last year and was a solid player by the end of the season. Now you're looking at the spot opposite Quentin Newsome, and I think Braxton Clark. I mean, he's 6'4", he's long, and again, I think flashed when he was able to get in. You just hate to see that injury 2 years ago now taken away from him, and now when he came back, it was, it's a crowded room once again. Like we've mentioned, Markel Dismuke, Deontay Williams, Cam Taylor-Britt, they got most of the snaps, and as well they should have. I mean, they're talking about 3-year starters, guys that you can rely on. It's especially important there in the secondary, and so between Braxton Clark and Noah Pola-Gates, they're right there. I mean, they're not guys that you worry about as far as like ballyhooed guys that aren't there on the depth chart, right? They were right behind those guys on the depth chart. It just didn't equal to playing time. So at least they've earned that depth chart position. It wasn't as though they just kind of fallen and you didn't see their name pop up anywhere. They just didn't get a whole lot of playing time. And so I think that I like Clark for whatever reason it was. Maybe it's his length. Nebraska hasn't had seemingly a 6'4" cornerback. You have to go back to like Stanley Jean-Baptiste and kind of the crave that was for a little bit of time. But certainly there's a reason why people jumped on it and loved the Richard Sherman types, because you're going up against 6'4" type of receivers often here in the Big Ten. The taller receivers that you play. So I love his potential, and it is time. And unfortunately, again, it's not so much time in his as far as like time's ticking on his career. It's just, for the belief, at least for me, or, for a lot of people, to think that he's been able to get back from that injury, because you think pre-injury, if he was getting minutes and getting part of the rotation, that maybe it just hasn't quite got back to that level. And so, sometimes it never does. And that will be frustrating if that ends up happening with him. But he's a guy I think has a lot of potential. It could be a future star if he gets back to where he was his freshman year.
Yeah, I love his size. I love his height. One of the guys that I really loved that had that height, size, and just that wingspan was Mike Booker, who played at the corner position and played for the Falcons and was a starter there as well. I just used to love watching him to be able to go up with big receivers and be able to match that physicality and intensity at the cornerback position. So I definitely love that he has great size and abilities, and if he can get healthy and get back to his normal self, then he definitely can compete. I also I'm interested in seeing what Masai Newsome does. With so much lost in that front, in the front with, Ben Stilley, DeAndre Thomas, and Damian Daniels, the exodus of them. I think I find it was hard for Masai to really break through because, even though he has good size at 6'4", 285, playing in a 3-4 system, they want some girth. If you're going to play in a 3-4, those tackles and nose guard have to have some girth because they got to eat up space, right? So it looks like Masai, unfortunately, his size is built for 4-3 and getting in the gaps and using quickness and stuff like that. So depending on how the defense goes and if there's kind of a hybrid type of system, I think he can possibly find himself a spot in the rotation and get into doing what he does best. I mean, there's not a lot of guys at the position, so the opportunity is very much open there, especially in the front line of the defense. So I'm interested to see what he does and if he's going to take the opportunity, and also to see what the Shenander is going to do on the defensive side. And how is he going to take a hybrid approach? He's got to try to figure out a way to create more pressure because he can't just continue to leave his cornerbacks and safeties out on islands against some of the top talent that the receivers are in the Big Ten. So that's just my thought on it. What's your thought on it? Text us on the Center Heyman text line at 402-464-5685. You can also call us on the Honda Lincoln hotline. We would love to get you on if we can get you on to talk a little bit more about it. But the segment is slowly closing. So remember that, 402-464-5685 if you want to tap in and touch upon the subjects of matter that is before you. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back with Hitting the Hardwood with Strick, talk a little bit about Dragic, the left-handed assassin, and his acquisition with the Brooklyn Nets, and if that's going to be any impact. We'll come back on the block right after this.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Hey, sports fans. Rico here with HIS Auto Care 70th and Van Dorn. Carfax recently awarded us as a top-rated auto service center for 2020, and Lincoln Choice Awards voted us as the 2021 top independent auto repair center. Call us at 402-488-8934 for superior service bumper to bumper. Mention this ad and get 7% off. Doesn't get any better than that. Rico for his Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harrison Arns. In girls sub-district basketball, Norris blew Nebraska City out of the gym with a final score of 74-12. Sage Burback from Norris finished with 17 points as the game's leading scorer. Waverly also got a win. They beat Plattsmouth 51-17. In girls state swimming, the Omaha Marion girls took home the Class A title by the slimmest possible margin over Lincoln Southeast, a half point to be exact. This is the Omaha Marion girls' 13th state championship. In state wrestling, Lincoln East had 5 wrestlers make it to the championship matches. They finished with Gabe Turman and Keith Smith winning individual championships. Brandon Mouser, Weston Sherlock, and Cole Toline would finish with runner-ups. In the Class B division, Waverly senior Trevor Brown won his second straight heavyweight title. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Today on Hey Culligan, why does your team stink? Here's Coach Waters.
Hey, Culligan. Yeah, my team stinks.
Ooh, harsh.
No. I mean, they stink. They won't hit the showers because it makes their skin all dry and itchy.
Coach, it sounds like your guys have been hit hard by hard water.
You kidding me? Hard water?
Yep, so let's call an audible in the form of one Culligan Smart High-Efficiency Water Softener to get the smooth back in their skin and the stink out of your team.
Okay, Culligan, I'm putting you in.
Coach, we're already on the way. Go to CulliganLincoln.com and schedule your free water test today. Breakfast tacos, brisket tacos, pork tacos, chicken tacos. You hungry yet? I can keep going. Pork or chicken, queso nachos, queso mac and cheese, hatch mac burritos. Now you're salivating. Muchachos is Lincoln's premier New Mexico barbecue fusion restaurant. You can't miss them in their bright blue building. Pair that great food with delicious coffee for breakfast and a variety of local and national beers on tap the rest of the day. Order your food online at yomuchacho.com or visit them in person at Muchachos on South 11th Street between L and K Streets.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, Kfxl Weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your first alert weather forecast for tonight, cloudy and cold, overnight lows 3 above. Snow chances throughout today on Thursday, cold again, highs right around 17. I'm NTV Chief Forecaster Ken Fountain for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Hitting the Hardwood here on the block on 93.7 The Ticket, our daily segment for the NBA and some of the stuff that's going on there. But first, I wanted to get to a few things that we didn't quite get to. Of course, today is Tom Osborne's 85th birthday. So congratulations. Happy birthday to Tom Osborne. We actually have the Teammates Mentoring Program, which comes up, Teammates Mentoring Hour, I should say, coming up here. And, of course, he's been a founder of that and in charge of that. I don't think he'll be joining tonight. I think he's got some birthday plans, but Jake Sorensen's going to step in with those guys here coming up right after us on the block. So very exciting stuff. I'm sure they'll mention Tom Osborne's birthday. In honor of that, give us your 85 favorite moments of Tom. No, maybe we won't do that too much, but certainly happy birthday to Tom Osborne. I also saw this from Sean Callahan. We were just talking about Mosai Newsome and some of those guys on the defensive line that we're going to have to step up. Sean Callahan of Husker Online tweeted this out. Nebraska offered North Texas twins Grayson and Gabriel Murphy in the transfer portal. The identical twin defensive ends emerged as two of North Texas' most impactful players last season when they combined for 26.5 tackles for loss and 15.5 sacks. So certainly you kind of think back to the Carlos and Khalil Davis days. There's been a lot
Peter
of
brothers.
Yeah, Peter brothers that come along. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool.
Maybe for those younger guys won't get your perfect year here, but that is something that I think a lot of people still thought is a void, something that hasn't been addressed in the portal so far. Some of the help on the defensive line and maybe a little bit more help on the offensive line, which they've grabbed a few guys, but still it never hurts when you're struggling that much to get more competition. And so that's something that we'll obviously try to look out for and see if any movement happens on that. But certainly kind of interesting stuff going on there. As far as hitting the hardwood, our talk for the NBA today, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Brooklyn Nets. Again, we often talk about some of the major teams, but the Nets are one of those teams that it's hard not to talk about them. Obviously, they grabbed Ben Simmons in the big trade for James Harden at the trade deadline. Did you see today Kyle Korver working out with Ben Simmons? He's the Nets shooting coach, one of the best shooters of all time. Do you think that Kyle Korver can fix Ben Simmons' shot? I know that you've talked about in the past your work with Reggie Miller, another one of the greatest NBA shooters of all time, or just shooters in general. How much did that help? How much do you think that a guy like that could help Ben Simmons?
Well, listen, Kyle Korver had a burner on him, so if there's anybody that can help him with that shot, it could be him. But the thing about that is you can always have coaches that can help you to get it done. But are you going to put in the work? Are you going to put in the time? Are you going to put in the extra effort? I mean, I think for me, what helped me in working with those guys is that we were the last ones to leave. I mean, we were there. I was there with Hubert Davis and there with Reggie and the likes of those guys. It could be an hour and a half after practice. Are you willing to stay that long and put in that time? So that's what it's going to come down to. Anybody can become a shooter. Some of it is technique. Some of it is minimizing movement. Some of it is two motions. Once you identify what it is, it's holding the ball a little bit too long. It's shooting on the way down as opposed to up. It's fading. It's so many different things. And once you break down the film and you really want to take the time to get better, but sometimes when you're that good, so gifted for so long, then you end up just deferring to the things that you do well and not wanting to expand. But you got to remember, in the NBA, scouting reports catch up with you. So you're going to eventually get caught up with, and they're going to start identifying your weaknesses, and they're going to start exploiting them.
Well, and it's interesting too, how much is he going to be, I guess, under the microscope with the Nets? He will be, because they're a good team, but he's no longer expected to be the second best guy on the roster, right? They've got guys, especially if they need a bucket, it's not even, just Durant and Kyrie Irving when he's playing in the road games. You have other guys that are offensively minded, shooting, Patty Mills, we've talked about, Goran Dragic, now the new signing, veterans that you could go to and ask for that bucket. So I don't know if you necessarily is going to be as much pressure on Ben Simmons to get that fixed. So how much is he going to be dedicated to it, because I kind of falling along the same lines. I've heard a clip from Kobe Bryant the other day talking about how when he was younger he would spend 8 hours a day on the basketball court, and that sounds like too much, but he says as opposed to most guys, they're spending 2-3 hours 3 or 4 times a week. Like, yeah, that's a lot. That's playing a lot of basketball, but it's nothing compared to how much somebody that's dedicated and will spend that amount of time to improve it. And Ben Simmons, especially when you're young, you have all that money, you're a star player, you've been an all-star. Sometimes you can kind of get in that headspace. So you can't tell me nothing. I'm happy with who I am and what I am and what I've done.
Well, I think for Ben Simmons, especially after the experience that he had in Philly as of late, and the way that the fans went all in on him. I mean, it was super trolling going on all over the place. And then you're laying an egg in a major playoff game that basically allowed the Atlanta Hawks to be able to beat you and upset you, right? So all of that stuff right now, and then you've been sitting all this time. You've got to figure that he wants to change the perception that people have of him and his game. Some of the things that he does provide, that's the good thing about not having that pressure, just being able to just do the things that you do well, do them well. But again, it's going to catch up with you. You don't want a team like that to be able to shrink the floor. Yes, they're in transition. They're going to be phenomenal. You get Ben the ball in transition, he's going to find you. You're going to be able to, and he's going to finish. But then he struggled at the free throw line. So you've got those things that are going to be a problem for you still. So you've got to iron them out. So he needs to put in the work. And I'm sure he wants to change the way people view him. And I'm sure he wants to stick it to Philly. And the only way you can stick it to Philly is you got to go through him, baby. So are you going to be a scouting report liability, or are you going to be a scouting report asset? It's going to depend on the way he wants to view it.
Nets 76ers conference finals. Let's all hope for it. I mean, that would just be crazy, or at least some point in the Eastern Conference playoffs. That would be amazing. The trolling that we'd see from both fan bases. Another thing that's kind of come up today is, with the 75th season of the league, it's been something that's celebrated. A lot debated about the top 75 players the NBA went ahead and put out, and some of the guys that they left off. So, we could maybe do that another time. But there's just kind of this thought, and I saw it on ESPN.com, just kind of like, let's take a step back. What if, all this stuff wasn't grandfathered in? Is there something that you would change about how the NBA or basketball is set up at this point that you just feel, could be beneficial to change? And the one thing that they kind of pointed out that kind of caught my attention was maybe less games. Do you really need 82 games, especially nowadays where guys are taking breaks on road trips, and then fans are getting kind of frustrated with you buy a ticket to go watch LeBron and he's out for a mental health day or whatever it is, then it can get frustrating, and it's just kind of weird. You just kind of come to this obscure number. Well, that's what it's always been, so that's what we're going to do, and that's how we can determine records and stuff like that. But if you could reset the NBA, we talked about it earlier with the grind that you had going into your rookie season. Would you lower the amount of games, or do you think that it's about right? I think that if you dropped about 20 games, you'd probably still have about the same playoff situation.
I think with the additions, I think the way they're trying to do it is with the additions of new teams in the expansion. Obviously, they played a lot more teams in a circuit because there wasn't as many teams as there are. But for the most part, even the older guys had a significant amount of games in which they played, right? So they did that without, this is the way I view it. They did that without the technology that they have, both in the physical aspect, with the equipment on their shoes, with the weight things that they do now. I think what happens is it's when you start adding in all of the extra stuff is when your body just needs that time to relax. I think they need to give them more time to relax and be able to recoup. So what happened is a lot of there's injuries, but a lot of it popped up when you had the COVID season, and then you started shrinking the time frames just started to shrink. And so now your body is just, the quick turnarounds and all of that stuff made it difficult. I don't know if that would work. I think it's possible, but would you want to do that? Do they want to give up that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Ultimately, it all comes down to right.
Yeah, the NFL's over there adding games, so I don't know if he wants to take away games at this point. So that's obviously an interesting point. One thing to tell you guys before you go to dinner, maybe to have something to say. It was revealed today by Lindsay Lohan that we've been saying your name wrong the whole time. It's Lindsay Lohan. So, maybe that's a little tidbit of information you can take. But never say you didn't learn something on the block. You probably learned a little bit more than that. But that's just a little tidbit that I found on the interwebs today. That'll wrap it up for On the Block. Teammates Mentoring Hour is coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow. And then Friday, we're at the Mercado. So that will be fun as well. But that's up for On the Block on a Wednesday edition. You guys have a good night.
At Buffalo